Hey everyone, welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vora, and I'm so grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring the journeys of incredible individuals, people who have faced adversity, found their purpose, and are now making an impact in their communities. But it's also about my journey. Over the years, I've faced my own obstacles, moments of doubt, and struggles with identity. Through it all, I found my purpose in giving back, creating a space where people can detach from the negative emotions and stigmas they may associate with their own stories, just like I did with mine. Here, we have real conversations about growth, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're searching for direction, striving for personal development, or simply looking for a place to feel seen and understood, this is for you. So if these conversations resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Now let's dive into today's episode. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Finding Purpose podcast. My name is Adam, and I am your host. Before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for your continued support, your listens, reviews, shares. They all mean the world to me. This podcast is all about shining a light on people who are not only living in their purpose, but also impacting their communities in incredible ways. So if you haven't already, make sure to follow, rate, and leave a review to help us grow this amazing community. Now today, I'm beyond excited to introduce a powerhouse in the hospitality and restaurant industry. Someone whose vision, leadership, and dedication to excellence have transformed the dining experience in Greenwich, Connecticut. My guest is none other than Dana Cifone, the Director of Operations and proprietor of Townhouse. Dana is a seasoned veteran with over 2 decades in the food and beverage industry, bringing in an incredible eye for style, operations, and guest experience. She has played an integral role in the creation and success of Townhouse, ensuring that every guest walks away with an unforgettable dining experience. But what truly sets Dana apart is her ability to turn vision into reality. Whether it's flawlessly executing private events, overseeing renovations, or leading with precision and passion, she has cemented herself as one of the top female leaders in hospitality. From her early days working in renowned restaurants to becoming a trailblazer in operations and event planning, her story is nothing short of inspiring. So without further ado, let's welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast, the incredible Dana Cifone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
This is very exciting.
Yeah, I was really happy to have you, especially the first time recording here at K-Vision Studio in Stamford. And I thought none other, this new stylish studio, to have someone like you who's just like a pillar in the community in Greenwich. Everyone who I meet like just speaks so highly of you. And I'm really gracious. Shout out to Laura for making this connection.
Absolutely. She's the best.
She's awesome.
I'm her number one fan.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just had that event the other day.
We did. Yeah,
it was yesterday.
It was yesterday. Yep, we did a lot of stuff together. And she's a powerhouse in everything she does. I'm wildly impressed by her.
Yeah. I really just kind of want to jump into it. We were able to talk one-on-one last week. And I really just kind of want to talk about your early years and what kind of brought you to the restaurant industry as you've, have such an illustrious career there?
I don't even know how I found this love for hospitality and restaurants and dining. I think just through my childhood, my parents always brought my brother and I wherever they went. So whether it was like grand vacations or just, nice restaurants, it wasn't really like the kid-friendly restaurant. I mean, every now and then we would have something that was, more appropriate probably for children. But we were just always in restaurants or dining out. The 4 of us always had dinner at home together if it was a dinner at home. Holidays were always at our house. So I just fell in love with like this pageantry of dining out and breaking bread and conversations around the table that at 14 years old, I decided I will be in hospitality. I used to walk around with a little notebook and write down ideas and names of restaurants and things that I needed to have in my restaurant. I recently found it a few years ago in a move I was making for my home. And in there, on this inventory list was ashtrays. Like, so that's as long ago as this notebook went when you could still like actually smoke in restaurants, that I needed to have ashtrays and matches in my restaurant one day. And I'm very, very fortunate. I have a lot of gratitude that I'm able to do what I love. I have a passion for it. And I like to do that with other people.
I love that. And you mentioned earlier that you came from an Italian family.
Mm-hmm.
Food is a huge part of the Italian culture. Can you talk a little bit about how food played a role in just you bringing everyone together, and what some of your favorite dishes were growing up?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, I'm Italian and Portuguese, and both cultures, like that's what you do. They're very, one and the same. One's a little bit more rice heavy, one's more pasta heavy when it comes to the starches, but there was just, every meal was always something. Like I always set the table with my mother, and when they kind of moved out of my childhood home into our summer home full time, she was like, what do I do with the china? I'm like, I want it. Like, I don't get rid of the china, and one day I'll use it, but like everything was just like magical. She always just made it magical. Even when it was just a dinner for the four of us. But then like family members always like came through the door. Like there was always a knock or somebody walking in, like my uncle, my aunts, cousins. Like I said, holidays were always big for our family. So I don't know if there's a specific dish that's my favorite, but just like the whole experience of it all. Like there was always ambiance set, whether like she lit candles or the lights were dim, and things of that nature. And it was a meal really, because like we have our traditions for what we eat for each holiday, or like kind of what we would have for dinner at home. And like there was always a salad, there was always the starch and a vegetable and the protein. So it was kind of just like a whole meal all the time. And that's what I loved. And like we're Italian American. We were both, my brother and I, born here, and my parents were born here, but we kind of raised with that little bit of European flair, about just, like I said, breaking bread around the table, the conversations. Like that's what I remember a lot. Obviously the food is delicious. I'm fortunate that my mother's an excellent cook. My father was an excellent cook. My brother is culinary trained.
Oh, really?
I can cook. I just don't have a need to cook. Yeah, it's just like the meals. Like I think Easter is like one of my favorite like holiday meals.
What do you guys have?
There's always a pasta to start. Like we have multiple courses. So there's like the antipasta start, and then there's always some sort of pasta course, and then there's some sort of protein. The Easter bread we would always make, my mother and I, and would bake for all the holidays. It also happens to fall around my birthday, so it was always
Nice.
there was always a birthday cake as well.
It's coming up.
It's coming up. It's next month. Yep.
Nice.
So my brother and I are actually born on the same day.
Really?
Yeah. So we're 2 years apart. So he'll be 43. I'll be 41. No, I'm already 41. I'll be 42. He'll be 44. Time flies. So like we always had a birthday cake for like the two of us, separate ones to keep it copacetic. But yeah, it was just always like, I don't know.
What was that like? That's awesome. Like sharing a birthday with your brother, but also growing up, it probably was like, I want my own day.
Birthdays are a very big deal for me, and everyone makes fun of me.
Yeah.
I was telling my staff the other day that they need to call my extension before knocking on my door. And I was like, what's my extension in the restaurant? They're like, we don't know. I'm like, it's 409. And they're like, oh.
April 9th.
Yeah. So they realized afterwards that I made the phone extension my birthday. Wherever I can make it my own, I do. But no, like we actually like love this aspect of our life, that like we love sharing this together. My parents did a really good job growing up to keep us separate. In the sense of like, it was a long day for my parents. Like when we would have friend parties, it was always in the same venue. I was younger, so like my party happened first. And then my mother setting up 2 rooms. So all the places always had to have like 2 party rooms in it, like one for me, one for him. So like my party would go from like, I don't know, 12 to 2 or 12 to 3. And then his friends would roll in, and his party would be like from 3 to 5.
Nice.
So it was a great day for us because we were at both parties. But they kept it separate. I think if we were the same sex, maybe there'd be more combined joint parties, if you will, even though there's 2 years difference. But I think because we're both, I'm a girl, he's a boy, they kind of kept it separate. But we love it to this day. At midnight, I call him every year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, every year he gets a call.
Are you guys really close?
We're super close. He's one of my best friends.
That's awesome.
Growing up, we hated each other.
Really?
Well, I think he hated me more than I hated him.
I think it was the same thing for me and my sister. Me and my sister are 14 months apart, and growing up, we butted heads.
Are you older or younger?
It's funny. I'm 14 months younger.
Oh, interesting. There goes my philosophy on
Yeah,
that.
I'm 14 months younger. And, also she's more introverted. I was more extroverted. I sucked out a lot of energy from our entire family nucleus. So I think to a certain extent, it was like, why does Adam get all the attention? So I could understand why.
Sure.
But it's funny because as I've grown up, it's almost like I've taken the elder sibling role, and I'm protective of her, and I advocate to her on her behalf to my parents or in any situation.
Sure.
But it's crazy though. Growing up though, we butted heads.
Oh yeah. I mean, we were miserable to one another.
Yeah.
He made me lick a battery once. I totally got shocked. I mean, he was just nasty. But I think that was normal, and we kind of had to go through that. But now it happened in college where there was just this shift. So he went to culinary school in Providence. I went to college in Newport, Rhode Island. So we were both in Rhode Island just by happenstance. As I said, he's 2 years older. And so for me to really go out, because I was a little bit of a club kid, in New York City. And then I just tried to find clubs that I could in Providence.
Yeah.
They didn't really go to my par.
I've been to Providence before.
Yeah. They were good for what they were. They weren't New York, but we would bump into each other a lot. And there was one night, I think he saw me handle myself with a certain person that was trying to dance with me. I don't know, something I was kind of dude, I'm good.
You shut him down.
I shut him down. And the next day I get a phone call from my mother about this, that Michael called me, and he was like, Mom, Dana, she'll be okay. My mother was like,
That's
Michael,
awesome.
your father and I have been telling you this for years.
That's awesome.
So ever since that happened, I think he felt the walls of him having to be protective just came down, and we can actually just be friends. And now, I mean, we talk multiple times a day. We're in the same industry.
Yeah.
So we have that bond as well. And yeah, we're just each other's buddies.
It's funny because, you kind of get to go on your professional journeys alongside of each other now too. One of the things that you said earlier on, you were talking about your mom, and you were talking about how she set up the dinners, and you were talking about the candles, and you were talking about the details. And I think attention to detail when it comes to the service industry is so important. So I want to jump into your early career. How did that experience watching your mom really create hospitable environments for family and friends translate early on in your career when you jumped into it?
I think it's always having those little details that I saw that she did at home. The best part of what I do is, and I've worked in corporate restaurants and hotel groups. I've had my own. It's making, these people are choosing to come to your home, so to speak. So however I can make them comfortable in my home, I'm going to do that. And a lot of that came from the environment that people came to our home as, kids and growing up, and they were beyond comfortable in our home. So I just want to have that experience for people. People are choosing, they can go anywhere, and everybody goes to a restaurant. Whatever walk of life you're in, you go to a restaurant at some point in your life.
Yep.
But you're choosing to go there. You can go to anyone's. But I want you to feel something, when you come to mine, even if it's just to grab a quick bite to eat because you're, you dropped a kid off at dance and you just have, time to kill. It becomes part of you, your story. That's what you did today. I'm going to be in that person's life forever, even if it's the one time they came to me. But a lot of times people come to restaurants for milestone birthdays, anniversaries, to celebrate first dates. I mean, it's sad, but I've had someone literally sign divorce papers in my restaurant before. Last dates. So you see a little bit of everything. There's joyous moments, sometimes I'm planning a funeral. I just want someone to feel like they're in my home and that they're comfortable there. And, I think from having a, 2-decade-long career, which is crazy to say, but it's true, I think, it's happening.
I think it's so true. And I've worked in the restaurant industry for 15 years. I currently work at a restaurant now. And I love the experience that you provide for people. And I've worked for restaurants that were family owned. One of them was up in Danbury, and they established themselves in the community as the place to go. As, if you are having an after wedding party, come to our bar. If grandpa dies. Let's hold the wake there because they will take care of us like family.
Right.
And that's exactly what you just laid out. You know, I always hated when my coworkers would refer to the guests as customers because they're guests. You know,
100%.
You know, I don't know why that was just that one verbiage shifts the perspective on how you treat someone.
Yep.
Customer is so transactional, where guest is experiential.
100%.
And it always bothered me when people did that. And
I feel the same.
yeah, right.
100%.
So like, what was your first restaurant job?
My first restaurant job. Oh my Lord. I mean, my first job was in a bakery in my town. My first restaurant job. Lord, I don't even remember. Actually, I was a bus girl. So like when you know what you want to do at a young age, at least for me, I needed to do every step of it. And it was a restaurant in Long Beach Island, New Jersey, where we spent our summers as kids. And it was not a great experience.
You say the fact that you stopped right
because,
there.
Because like I guess it was traumatic.
That.
Like he was just so mean to me.
Like end of sentence, end of description.
Yeah, so mean to me that I actually one of my best friends. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is all like flooding back. My best friend's mother went there and yelled at the chef and owner because that's how miserable he was to me. And I guess I was like, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. It's like whenever you're the age to start working.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, so that was my first restaurant experience.
That's wild. My first restaurant experience was I bussed at a Bertucci's in UMass Amherst when I went there.
Okay.
And I was just like that utility worker, like wherever they needed me, they put me. And it was a cool experience because a lot of the people who worked there were all college students also. So afterwards we'd all go out and we'd all hang out.
Oh, well, that's the best part of it. I mean, you become this family with these people.
Yeah.
Like you just instant friends.
Yeah.
You may not like everybody or whatever. There's always like that restaurant drama that happens. But like you're instant friends because you're on the same playing field. Like you go through 5-6 hours somewhat worth of hell.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, where are we going to now? What are we doing?
Yeah. It's grueling. And also one thing that I say to people all the time about working in the restaurant industry, I say everyone should work in the restaurant industry for at least a year in their life. It'll teach them so many different skills.
So many that they can take in every field.
It's crazy. I had my friend Mike Spindler on that, who's now a successful realtor. And I met him at Capitol Grill in Stanford. And he was like, dude, like that role helped me in the way that I'm building my business now.
Yes.
When it comes to communicating to people, being able to multitask, you know, being able to just handle stress.
Yep.
Everything coming at me at once. Communication, problem solving, all of these things that he outlined. And really what it comes down to for me is like having a higher tolerance for people.
Absolutely. I mean, you learn and a lot of times I say, yes, I'm in hospitality, of course, but like I'm in the observation business, you know, like I just watch people because it then betters the experience that I can give to people. Like if I see somebody take a bite of something and it's like, there's just magic on their face. They're like, all right, that one was good.
Yeah.
You know, they take a bite of something else and they're like, I'm like, okay, what can we do to improve that? Like you just watch people of like what they want. You know, it's about reading the room, you know, and kind of seeing their faces and their expressions and their conversations that they're having. I don't know.
Yeah. So as you progressed in your career, obviously, you know, we won't talk about the bakery. And when was that aha moment when you were like, this is like, I want this to grow into something big?
I mean, I think it was just right. I don't know, like that aha moment. It was, I knew there was nothing else I wanted to do. And that was at like 14 years old. And I came to my parents. I was like, I want to go work at the bakery.
Nice.
And they're like, we're not telling you to work. I'm like, no, I want to. Like, I knew I wanted to see it all. And I worked in that bakery for, I think collectively, probably like 10, 11 years, you know, all through high school during the school year. And they knew that come like the end of the school year, I was out because I went to Long Beach Island. And then they would take me back, obviously, when the school year started. And I did that like after cheerleading practice, after softball practice, whenever I could do it. even when I went to college in Rhode Island, I loved them. They were a husband and wife team that owned this bakery. And if you're in Westchester, like everybody knew the Riviera.
Oh, okay.
They had like crazy cakes. I mean, just fantastic stuff. And I went to college, and even when they were busy on a weekend that I wasn't planning on coming home, he'd call me. He was like, we're having a crazy weekend. We don't know why. It's just I would drive. Like I had my car in
Nice.
college. I drove down, helped them out for the weekend, and went back up. And even like, oh my gosh, when we would come home from school breaks and go party in New York City, and I was in nightclubs until whatever time in the morning, I wouldn't even go home. Like my clothes would be in the backseat of the car. I'd walk in at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Peter was like, why are you here? I'm like, because if I go home, you won't see me at 6 o'clock. I just got to keep going. And me and one of my best friends at the time, we did this together. We go to the club and we worked at the bakery. And like in our head was still like the club music, like unlike as we partied on like Thanksgiving Eve.
Yeah.
And by party, I mean just like at the club, like we weren't even of age to like do anything. So we were like, stone cold sober and just like dancing like behind the line, like getting people there like apple pies for Thanksgiving dinner.
That's so
And
funny.
it was great. But like I remember there was when I first started, which is crazy because I love hospitality and I love the front house of it. And not that I'm not number savvy, but I'm not like the best without a calculator. And I'm happy to admit it. And they had an old school cash register because they didn't take credit cards at the time. Like I was 15, so this was whatever year that was. And I couldn't figure out how to give cash properly. Like if somebody like threw me a penny or something, I was like, whoa, because they just wanted me to like round up or.
Yeah.
And the owner like put me back on training. And I was like, maybe this isn't for me. This is what I've been dreaming about for the year that I realized I needed to be in hospitality at 14. Now it's 15. And she put me back on training. I think I was like the only one that's ever had to do that.
Yeah.
But I got through it. And then like I was their go-to person.
Yeah.
Like there was a part of their leaving or trying to retire that they called me and asked me if I even wanted to take over the bakery. So like I just never gave up. I was like, I was going to do this.
One thing that you said earlier was how, like I had to start off as a busser and I had to work my way up. I wanted to understand every tier of the industry. You eventually would jump into like New York City hospitality, correct?
Yes.
What was that like?
Very interesting. Before I did New York restaurants, after I graduated from college, I was doing event planning in the city. And then I moved to Long Beach Island and lived there for a few years. And I was doing food and beverage for Caesars in Atlantic City.
Nice.
All of a sudden, one day, I get a phone call from the vice president of Star Restaurants based out of Philadelphia. And you would have thought I just got nominated for an Oscar. I was with my mother and like, I'm on the phone. He's like, this is Bradley from Star Restaurants. I go to my mom like, it's Star Restaurants. Yes. They're like, we would like to interview you for a manager, job. We're opening 2 properties in Atlantic City. I was like, yes. He's like, but the VP's in, New York right now that you need to interview with. I'm like, I'm in New York. And I went to Budokan in New York City for the first time, which is just this like outrageous looking restaurant. Like you get all the feels when you go in there. Like this room has a mood and this room has a vibe. I mean, it is just wonderful what he does. And Star Restaurants, I was following him for years because knowing I want to do this. And I took the interview and then I opened up a few properties for them in Atlantic City. Then I moved back home to New York a few years later and started managing a restaurant in the meatpacking at like the prime of the meatpacking.
Yeah.
And I was like 24 maybe. And I mean, it was just like everything you kind of wanted a New York restaurant to be at that age for you.
Yeah.
It was like, it was celebrity, it was professional athletes, like business bigwigs and great food. And there was a DJ and there was atmosphere. And it was just like a great experience. And the stories, which would probably be for another podcast, is out of control of the things that I've seen. But Star Restaurants was really the place before the meatpacking restaurant was what I knew, like, this is for me.
That's when you were like, I'm established also.
To work for him at such a young age. And then like, I was like the first hire for those restaurants in Atlantic City. Like, it's just something that I carry with me. And it's kind of cool to say because he's such a powerhouse in this industry. There's a few people in the business that are just people I look up to. The Food Network does a great job of highlighting chefs and, some restaurateurs and things like that. But as some I feel like, lose sight of like why we all started in this business in the first place. And
I
the
love
celebrity kind of got to some of them.
that. Yeah.
And good for them. Great for them. But there's a few people that are still in the industry that kind of do it for the right reason or the same reason I do.
Yeah.
And not that I've met obviously Steven Starr because I worked for him, but like there's people that I haven't even met and there's like a special place in my heart for them because of the way that they carry themselves.
Well, it's funny because, I have mentors like that where I've never met before, but I'm like, damn, they're killing it. They're doing it the right way.
Yep.
And, you want to emulate your moves and the way that they do it sometimes. Because,
and there's so many avenues that you can go down. So when I see somebody, they're opening restaurants around the world, but then they also have like a cookbook or they also have, product lines and things like that. I'm like, yeah, there's so much you could do with this. And I have such a creative mind that I don't turn off.
Yeah.
I mean, I lie awake at 3:00 in the morning. Like, what can I do to do this better? Like, what other revenue stream can I bring into the restaurant to give a better experience for people? Maybe they don't want to come here for this, but I think they'll come here for that.
Yeah. It's so funny because, you mentioned Steven Starr. What other like mentors did you have that you want to tip your hat to, and what did you learn from them?
So much really, like I guess going back, but like even just Peter and Kay from the bakery, like I saw them working together as a team. And yes, they were, a personal team as well as a professional team. They kind of had their two different roles and they worked really well together, but then just like their dedication to the craft and like what products they were putting out. So they were just, mentor, yes, influential in who I am in this career, them for sure. And I think it's just because it was such a great experience at such a young age.
Yeah.
And then they saw something in me where they let me kind of grow with them. I mean, I started as a sales associate behind the counter, packing up pastries, on a Sunday morning. And then I, graduated to making cookie trays and, and then I graduated to decorating some cookies. And then I graduated to making savory food for them. And I was in the kitchen sometimes cooking. So they were definitely like mentors because they saw something, I guess, in me, maybe that I didn't even see yet. And they kind of like let me grow. So I take that with my staff now.
Nice.
I always want to not necessarily promote from within if I have the opportunity to, and they want it. Of course I would.
Yeah.
But, maybe giving somebody a little bit more opportunity or, responsibility because I have to be in the office all day today. So like I know who to go to or can I get a little bit more out of you today?
Love that.
So I love that. And that really came from them. Star more for like the atmosphere too. Like all of his restaurants, if you're not familiar with them, they're all different, like different cuisines, different atmospheres, different vibes. But like you always know you're in a Star restaurant if you're in one. And that I like that he kind of puts his stamp on it. And I still love following his, career and everything that he's doing, his partnerships and collaborations. Yeah.
I want to talk about your journey as a restaurant owner yourself. What was that experience like?
So it kind of just, not that it happened by chance, but, I opened a restaurant in Greenwich in 2009 with a partner and some other family members. And that's really how the first business really started for me in, owning something.
Yeah.
And that, you take all the experiences that you have through the past, obviously.
Yeah.
But then like you learn a lot of stuff as you're going because I was now doing things as a different, I'm still managing a restaurant, but I have a different hat to wear.
Yeah.
And now decisions are made kind of, between all of us, but really myself of how I want to, how I want to lay out the training manuals and stuff like that, so you take it, but you kind of make it your own.
It's so funny because I worked for a restaurant owner and his family owned it. And for a while he was erratic, needless to say. And he would always say, "This is my livelihood." And I always was like, bro, what, you think I'm here for my health?
Right.
Yeah. This is my livelihood too.
Exactly.
I understood what he meant. Like
right.
it's his business. It's his family.
Sure.
It's his name.
But nobody cares.
But dude, like, I'm here to pay my bills too. Like,
100%.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So when you were in the ownership role as opposed to the upper management role, what were some things that you struggled with that transition?
I don't know if I mean, I don't know if I
If there was
did.
anything.
Yeah, I don't know if I did struggle with any because I always, and I think it's my parents, my brother and I, and it's hard to say it just for me because like he does too. Like, and we kind of, connect on that level also. We have a very strong work ethic.
Yeah.
And I do everything like it's my own. Like even at like 16, 17 years old, and I was a server in a restaurant in LBI, like my station was mine. Like everyone was going to have an unbelievable experience. And like, I'm like, the orchestrator here. Like, so like I always worked that way. And I still obviously work that way, but like, so I don't know if there was really a struggle. I was fortunate that I became a manager at a pretty young age.
Yeah.
When I first started managing people, I was in like my early 20s. I remember when I was in Caesars, I went to my first meeting on the day I started, and one of my employees was like, they brought a birthday cake out for her. And
Did you live in Atlantic City?
no.
Okay.
No, that would have been a nightmare. No, there's nothing wrong with Atlantic
Yeah.
City.
Oh,
I kind of,
I was saying that. I was like, I don't know if I'd ever live in Atlantic
no.
City.
I lived in Long Beach Island and commuted.
How long have you commuted? Is that?
Like 35 minutes,
Oh, really?
40 minutes. Not so bad.
Okay.
And honestly, to this day, like I like having 25 minutes at least from work.
In the car.
In the car. You just have to kind of decompress.
I love that.
You just have to like, it's a stressful industry like most industries are these days, but like I get home and I've learned only as of recent, like that's behind me now. Like I can actually get home and just enjoy being home.
Mm-hmm.
But they brought this cake out and she was like, it was her 60th birthday. And I was like 22 years old. And she's like, you could be my granddaughter. And I'm like, well, I'm not. I'm actually your boss. And like, after I said that, I'm like, who am I to say that? I'm like, I was brought up to respect my elders.
Yeah.
And I just like
Like, I'm
totally
your boss.
shot her down.
Oh my God. It's one of those things where you wish you could take that back. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
I mean, I was like proud of me and kind of wanted to crawl into a hole at the same time. I didn't know which one was going to come first. But yeah, like, so I was very young, like managing people. So I don't know if there was really a struggle in it.
Yeah.
But what I did know, I guess I've had experiences that weren't always, so positive, I guess, in this industry. And that's the only thing I wanted to do is that if I had bad experiences or I had a boss, a chef, a manager, whatever the case may be, that do things or did things, I have a ton of stories.
You have a story? I want to hear a story.
I mean, it's
of like when you were tested, maybe.
Oh gosh, there's so many. I don't know how to choose. Not even, I mean, this one's not like a great story, but in general, like it's a stressful industry.
Yeah.
And I had to realize that later on that like, I'm not saving lives here. Like I'm feeding people food and beverage. Like it's not the end of the world. But, in it, this is like the most important thing that you're doing today is like serving people. And I just had a chef like yell at me for the silliest thing. And like threw a plate on the expo line because he wouldn't like split the dish for guests. And then I had like another chef down the road and he was like, come here. And he like did it on like the sneak. I was like, thank you. Like they just wanted it on two plates. Like, can we just do this for these people?
Yeah.
Like I knew I didn't want to do what happened to me to my staff.
I had that happen to me the other day.
Yeah. I mean, it's great.
Like,
and like, listen, I'm sure
pissed
there's
off at you.
times.
And I was like, for what?
Yeah, I'm sure I may fly off the handle.
Yeah.
I don't really know if I do anymore, but
the funniest thing that I've noticed about working, the pace is so fast that like you're angry for like maybe 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Like for me, I found that like in the heat of the moment, I'll be like, that fucking asshole,
Right.
But 10 minutes later, I forget about it because I don't have time to carry that throughout the entire shift.
No.
The other thing I was going to talk about is you said the 25-minute window. And I remember when I was, working like full time and killing myself at a restaurant, I would come home and I would look over at my girlfriend and I'd be like, I just need time to decompress. And, she wants to kind of tell me like, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like,
no.
I wish
you're not going to get the best version of me right now. So give me time.
The way I looked at it was I just spent like 8 hours straight just entertaining because I do think especially if you're behind the bar, it's an entertainment. You're putting on a show.
And that's what I say to my staff all the time. I'm like, we are on stage.
It's a stage.
You know, they're not here to see you.
Yeah.
But they're here to see you.
Yeah. And so it takes a lot out of you. So like sitting in silence on my couch, sometimes with just like a bottle of water and like staring at a blank TV is like the most relieving part of that evening. And eventually she got it, but it took a little while where I was just like, listen, I need to decompress.
You do.
Yeah. And sometimes she'll be like, oh, what do you need to decompress? And I'm like, yeah, I do. All right. So I want, you said, you told a lot, and I want to talk a little bit about, you know, like obviously like the podcast is about finding purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You found a purpose in hospitality. And I think that's such like a selfless purpose. I want to talk about how, as you grew in the industry, how would you compare yourself now to when you started? And we'll kind of jump into Townhouse and whatnot.
I was never like not a calm person. There were times where my mother was always like, do you have a heartbeat? I'm like, yes, I do have a heartbeat. But like, I kind of I'm always one temperature. When I first started, I wore it like heavily what was going on in the day. And like, I couldn't shake it. Like, I remember I was at my best friend's like bachelorette party that I planned. And this is when I was working in the city. And I had so many regulars coming in that weekend. I was like, of all weekends for this party to be happening is like the worst one. And I'm on my BlackBerry, like BBMing like the other managers. And she's like, put the fucking phone down. You're not a doctor. Like, but so-and-so is there. So like I've learned now to kind of separate like Dana Cifone person and Dana Cifone restaurateur. Mm-hmm. And it took me a very long time to really do that. I got interviewed years ago where I was like, this is not just what I do, it's who I am. To a certain extent it is, but like, it's not. Like there's so many more sides of me. I have so many more purposes in life, you know, than just being this. So when I started, like, I just wore it all. I couldn't shake it. I wasn't like decompressing at home. Like I was just thinking about the night, like this could have been better and this could be better. I could have said this differently in this, you know, staff meeting or whatever the case may be. And now it's just, you know, it's not, you know, saving lives so much and just like removing yourself from it. And like, there was a lot of growth and really just like the last 6 years for me and like really kind of figuring out like what I want to give to the restaurant. But when I'm not there, I'm not the restaurant.
You know, it's funny. I used to have a manager who was like, I worked at a steakhouse, and he was like, "It's cows and grape juice, guys. It's cows and grape juice." Mm-hmm. And he was, you know, he was just talking about steak and wine, right? And when he dumbed it down like that, just like he was basically like, just have fun, right? You know, if you have fun, the guests will have fun. Exactly. And that was the type of energy he conveyed. I love how you just said that I'm capable of separating Dana the restaurateur from Dana the person. Obviously, throughout this journey, like your life is happening also. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I feel that the restaurant industry for a period of time for me, it was very hard for them not to bleed over. And obviously going into business with your ex-husband, that must have been extremely difficult. And then that ending, I'm sure there were a lot of lessons that came out of it. Absolutely. And more on the personal side. Yeah. I mean, working together was never an issue. We actually did that really well. Mm-hmm. You know, we went in it as boyfriend and girlfriend, fiancés, you know, then we became husband and wife. You know, the growth of coming out of something like that, because that's when I was like, that's when a light bulb kind of went off where I was like, wow, okay, I now don't have a job. You know, eventually I had to move on from it. This is the ending of a marriage. Mm-hmm. You know, we had just bought a home. So now I have to, like, every facet of my life was now changing. Yeah. You know, most people aren't working with their spouses. So yes, if you get divorced, like, yes, you may need to find a home, but you get to keep your job. You know, and like, sorry, it's no, listen, I laugh at it now and I can. It was wildly traumatic at the time. But I'm a better version of myself because of it. And that's like when I was like, okay, I'm two different people. Yeah.
You know, I don't have to. And it's hard because I lived and worked in the same place that the restaurant was. So I always felt like I had to be on. You know, even if I just wanted to walk my dog on the avenue.
You lived above the restaurant?
No, but I
Oh.
lived in Greenwich.
Oh,
So like
okay.
Greenwich was my town for
Yeah.
work and pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, so if I just took the dog for a walk on Greenwich Avenue to grab a coffee or do some shopping, it's like, oh, it's Dana. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, from Doro. And I'm like, yes, but I'm Dana, you know,
Yeah, I'm just Dana. Yeah.
just Dana. But like, I always felt like I had to have like a decent outfit on and my makeup had to be done and my hair. Cause like, I can't let anyone see me like not as Dana, the restaurateur.
Yeah.
Now I don't care so much anymore.
Well, you look lovely.
No, thank you.
You look lovely.
I did come from work
There you go.
and I'll go back to work.
So like, you know, like the one thing you said was, you know, that was like a huge turning point for you, and you came out of that having a better appreciation for separating the two personas per se. Personally, what have you done and what have you learned about yourself through that experience?
That I can really do anything I put my mind to. Like I always knew that I kind of could, you know, but there's always, listen, it takes a village no matter who you are. You know, there's family, there's friends, there's coworkers. You can't really do everything on your own. Even if you feel like you're, you know, a sole entrepreneur, there's something and people that have kind of got you to the point of that. I know I can pretty much do anything I put my mind to at this point, whether it's a personal thing, a business thing. I somewhat feel like unstoppable and kind of, you know, a little bit unbreakable, which is a nice feeling. Like in a, you know, not that I'm like, you know, she woman, but you know, I can get hurt, but I kind of let things just like roll off my back and try to look at everything with a positive spin. Even like the worst day that I could be having, like something good came out of that day.
God, the way you said
Finding
that
it.
I could do everything that I put my mind to, like that was powerful.
There's just things that like I never thought of doing. But if I really think of it and sit with it, like I know I can figure it out some way, somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, having that confidence in yourself comes from a place of the complete opposite, where there's like a moment of complete unknown and a moment of, I don't think, hopelessness, frankly.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I think it's so powerful the way that you've transformed it. And, you know, now obviously what you're doing with Townhouse, you told me how that all came about. And I love that story. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. And I also want to just talk about, you know, what your plans are for Townhouse in this future.
Sure. So after I left the restaurants I had on the avenue, I actually went back to the city for a little while. And then a mutual friend of mine and the new owners of the property, before it was Townhouse, called me and was like, they need somebody just like you. You know, they need somebody to do consulting and events and marketing and kind of, you know, possibly rebrand. And I was like, I don't know. It's a little too close, too soon. I was still living in the house. It was going on the market. You know, my ex was still down the road. I don't know. He's like, just take the meeting. I was like, fine. So I took the meeting. Obviously, long story short, they courted me for a good, you know, I want to say actually 6 months.
Does that feel good when they court you?
It did. And like, they honestly, like we had so many meetings, breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, whatever it was. And like, I just liked being around them.
Yeah.
Like I knew, and this is kind of what's nice about transforming yourself at a little, I mean, not a later age. I mean, you know, at that point I was still in my 30s. But knowing what you want out of a career, knowing what you want out of friendships, knowing what you want out of an intimate relationship. So like, I knew the type of people I wanted to be around. And they were it. You know, I loved how they talked about their families in our meetings. Like it wasn't always just like a business conversation. So I respected their personal lives. And it did feel good that they wanted me. So ultimately, obviously, I took the gig. And then we ran it for 2 years of the previous restaurant. And then in like the summer of 2019, the gentleman that brought me in, who's a Greenwich native, and I still to this day, you know, have a relationship with him and, you know, think he's fantastic. He was like, come up with a concept. I'm like, okay. So, you know, I came up with the name Townhouse and kind of what I wanted it to aesthetically look like and the type of food. I've been in Greenwich now in hospitality for 16 years. We just celebrated 5 years in January for Townhouse. So I felt like I had a good pulse on like what the neighborhood wanted. So I came up with this, and then we found Steven. And he joined on at the end of the year of 19 so that we could really start collaborating and working and putting together Townhouse. And then we opened January 2020, unfortunately, and fortunately as well. A lot of good came out of it for us. And I almost hate saying that because it was obviously an interesting time for the world.
Yeah.
But the business kind of needed.
No one could have anticipated that.
No one. I mean, it was just what is happening right now. I mean, we were there for 8 weeks. Literally, January 20th, 2020 is the doors were open to the public and shut down on March 17th.
I remember that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spoke with, because at that point we were 7 days a week and we both took Sundays and Mondays off. So I had another manager there. It was a Monday. And he lives a little bit further. I was like, listen, I'll drive up to the restaurant. That way someone's in front of whoever's in the building that day, and I'll compose an email and send it to everybody, just to let them know they're not coming back to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I had a server that was there that day start hysterical crying. I'm like, just when you think your life is going in like one direction and it's like, nope, joking. I had to like calm her down. I'm like, this isn't you. Like, you'll have a job when you come back, and try to make like light of the situation, but I don't know what's going on.
Well, I think that's really when you also kind of have that these are my people.
Right.
I need to be compassionate. I need to be
100%.
empathetic. I need to care about them. And especially in the restaurant industry, which is different than most industries where you're not on salary. You may not have health benefits. There's a lot of things that the restaurant industry offers, but it's different.
Right.
And I remember in that moment I was working in Capitol Grill, and they just shut down, and it was corporate, so they were going to be even more strict with what they comply with, and they stayed closed for quite a while, and then they only really brought back in phases, and seniority really was the priority. But it was a very uncertain time. And managing through that must have been, very testing, especially also, I mean, it's not like you also, your life is affected.
Oh
also,
yeah. I'm like, I just opened this restaurant, I was looking to move, I moved out of Greenwich, about a year before that happened. Cause I sold the house and I just moved back to Westchester to be a little closer to my immediate family. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get the restaurant open. I'm going to move back to Connecticut. And I'm like, now that's not happening. I don't even know what's happening in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Even with that situation, and no one knew what was going on. And even now and before that, we're all human beings, and one of the things I said before that I didn't want to do things to me that happened to me to my staff. It's the same thing with this. Like, that was like the most human I had to be with them. And it's like, you're no longer my staff. We're teammates in this, we're just people trying to get through. And the communication was important because nobody knew.
Yeah, that's wild. I want to make a pivot because there's one thing I really wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
You host a lot of female entrepreneur empowerment events at Townhouse. And being just a female powerhouse yourself, what does it mean to you to have other females look up to you, other women who are business owners themselves or, titans in their respective field as well? How does it feel to be grouped amongst them, and what do you do to help inspire? And you're super humble, so it's okay.
Yeah, honestly, I just don't. I guess they do.
You are regarded that way.
Thank you. It's nice to hear. I just don't think of it that way because, as much as I know I can do anything, like I said before, not to go back on that. It's kind of just I just go about my day. I have thought about some things, but I really just go about my day, and I think that's just how I've always been. And I've worked with managers in previous jobs where I knew they were fake. And the tables could tell that they were fake. Our guests could tell that they were fake. And I was like, I will never be that way. I'm just myself. And if that's inspiring to people, so be it. And that's great. It's not that I try to seek it out. It's just connections, you know, and I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. Like I've just met such incredible people. Like
Mhm.
I said earlier, like I'm from Westchester, New York. I grew up in a very small town, Dobbs Ferry. Community was huge, you know. I guess good and bad. You know, I couldn't really go anywhere without somebody knowing who I was. And that's sweet and you know, most of the time. Um, you know, and it's kind of translated to me in Greenwich. Like I almost feel like a little bit of a Greenwich native because I've been here. Like my adult life has been in
Yeah.
Greenwich. And I've met incredible people throughout my time here. And they love to do, like, I'm inspired by so many people. Like, they make me want to be a better businesswoman, a better entrepreneur, you know, and do these collaborative things with them because I see the results. Like the event we did yesterday at the restaurant with Laura and Greenwich Lifestyle, we talked about it last night and we're constantly on the phone with each other, bouncing things off. I was like, it was a great event, great group of people. You know, the connections you could tell, like, because I'm always listening, like, you can hear their conversations and, like, who's setting this one up and, like, oh, I have somebody that you need to meet. And it's genuine.
Yeah.
You know, we're in New York, and I'm not bashing New York in any way, shape, or form, but there was always like, I'll connect you with this person, but this is what I want.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing underlying with the women that are in this community. And you have to find your people.
Yeah.
You have to find your people. Like, when I left my restaurant and I was going out a little bit more socially because I had a little bit more time on my hands now that, you know, I wasn't, you know, working so many hours. I had taken on the 9 to 5 in the city, so to speak, before coming back to Greenwich. I went out with a group of people and the conversation was just like not to my liking.
Mhm.
And I just sat there in silence. And like they were just kind of like one-upping one another. And my friend that I was the closest with that called me the next day. I'm like, that's not why we were there. And so you learn like who your circle is going to be. And I've met great women that inspire me every day.
I love that. And, you know, I've been in situations like that too, where I don't really want to talk about other people. I
Yeah.
want to talk about, I'm not trying to show off. You know,
No.
at the end of the day, I want to talk about ideas. I want to talk about how we could collectively grow together. And
Yep.
if it's a conversation that doesn't align that way, then it's not really serving me.
No. And that's in personal and professional.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is so great about kind of, you know, unfortunately going through some sort of trauma, you know, 8 years ago and doing the work and kind of seeing what I want to be and who I want to be is really, you know, mind blowing on how you just change your mindset in a way. And I've have, you know, better connections with friends. I'm better in business. People are calling me that want to collaborate with me. And I'm kind of like, really? Okay.
Mhm.
You know, and it's just like, you want to kind of just ride that wave.
Well, that's exactly how I got connected with you.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about the events that I wanted to do with my friend, my friend who's a chef, and everyone was like, "You need to talk to Dana." And
You're like, Dana
I
who?
did say, I said Dana who?
Who's
They're
this
like, "Oh,
Dana?
Dana at Townhouse. You don't know her?" And I was like, "No, like I need to meet this woman."
Mm-hmm.
And what struck me the most, though, is when I went to come talk to you about this event, we talked about all sorts of things.
Yes.
And it was just like an all-encompassing, actual meaningful conversation, which is why I wanted you here. I really want to jump into purpose. And what does purpose mean to you?
I think it has so many different ways of looking at this. And I feel like it's kind of like art. It's like subjective. And I feel like for me, like, yes, I found my purpose, I think, in my career, you know, but I think I'm also still learning what my purpose is. And I think it's dependent, like even just now, like my purpose is being as intentional as I possibly can in this conversation.
Mhm.
If I'm talking to my niece, it's about being what I think she needs to be and being a good purpose for her. You know, and it may be an occupational hazard in hospitality that I'm always kind of trying to do things for others,
Mhm.
but really being kind of like purposeful for myself. In everything I do, and even if it's just sitting at home, you know,
Yeah.
on a Sunday with my dog, you know, but being there, like I was never really in the moment. I was always thinking about something else. But it's now really trying to focus and being in the moment and having, you know, that be the purpose.
What are the habits, daily habits that you incorporate into your life and your routine to stay grounded in your purpose?
I want to get better at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie, because there are times in this industry, you know, I'm fortunate that I do have the freedom to not be there so late every night and things like that. And I've grown in the career, you know, and the hospitality ladder, if you will, that I do have more flexibility. But there's times where like, it's a late night. It's not all the time, but there's times. And sometimes I wake up, I'm like, I don't feel like journaling today, you know, but I do want to do it. So there are things, you know, I write things down. I'm a big, you know, note taker. As savvy as I am with technology, I like pen to paper.
Yeah.
So like I write things down, whether it's the to-do list or like what I want for myself. And I'm kind of just like writing down where I see my future. If it's another project, or like stating that it's mine already and kind of working towards that. I try to not touch my phone for a half hour to an hour after waking up. It's like I'll get up and, you know, that's kind of the morning routine. I get up, I feed Mika, my dog, make my coffee, sit down. I try not to turn on the television and I try not to look at my phone. It's not easy because a lot of the stuff that I deal with work is more corporate clients and guests.
Mm-hmm.
So I know my phone like blew up, you know, or is blowing up. But like I just try to like leave it in another room because if it's next to me, I'm going to touch it.
Yeah.
And that's just like, that's really cool to do. And then I just try to do some sort of like light workout. I'm not a gym person.
Okay.
I never was. I enjoy taking care of myself, but I rather do something at home. So I just try to move a little bit in the morning before, you know, I then start the day.
I love that. What advice would you give to someone who is on that journey of finding purpose?
Take your time. Like really just take your time and like sit with what you want. And I've said this to some people that are younger than me and, you know, kind of going through it. I literally say like, write down what you like to do. Whatever that may be. It could be doodling. Write it down. Like just find out what you like to do and try to make it into something for yourself. Like I'm very strange that I knew what I wanted to do at 14. Like I don't think a lot of people know that and actually do it. You know, everyone may say, I want to be a fireman at 14 or like, you know, a doctor. And then they become, you know, a contractor or something or a lawyer. I don't know. But just take the time with it and really think because like this is your life. We have one go at it and you can change. That's what I love about it. Like I thought about changing a few years ago. I launched another business, you know, that I no longer really, you know, do full time.
Mm-hmm.
I've moved on and taken a back seat to it. I wanted to try something else. So you never know what it is. As gung-ho as I am about hospitality, like I was like, oh, maybe I can try something else.
Yeah.
So it's okay to take your time. Like there's no roadmap and no one like can do it except for you. Like don't listen. And that took me some time too. Like I used to listen to a lot of outside noise and now I'm a little bit more of a risk taker and just kind of like try because I know I can.
I love that. You know, one of the things that you said early in this conversation was the people that you gravitated to were the people who were not far removed from their why. And I love that about you because you could see that you're not too far removed from your original why as to why you chose, you know, this career path, but also like live purposefully in it and have grown, you know, beyond that.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful for you joining the podcast.
Thank you.
I invite you definitely to talk to the audience about how they can connect with you, anything upcoming that you have. Hopefully me and you will be making an announcement in the near future about a potential collaboration. And yeah, by all means.
So yeah, obviously I'm Dana Cifone and I'm currently the director of operations at Townhouse. So you can follow us on Instagram at Townhouse Greenwich. Personally, I'm Dana_Cifone on Instagram as well. Lots of fun things. And kind of the reason I love the hospitality and especially Townhouse is I'm coming up with a few ideas of experiences and events and other things that let me be creative. And it's a great format and platform for me to be able to do that. So that's exciting.
Love that. And I want to thank everybody who has tuned in. I really encourage you to subscribe, like, review, shoot me a DM, shoot Dana a DM if you want to come visit the Townhouse. And I'm super happy about the community that we're building. Special thanks to K Visions for the production component of the studio. I'm so excited to go on this journey with them and build out this upcoming year with them as well. So my guy CV, thank you, brother.